Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Pranzata podcast. I am your host, Andrea Pranzatelli, and this is episode number 32 on my podcast series here on YouTube. Before we get into it, if this is your thing, I typically interview musicians, comedians, and different types of artists and entrepreneurs of different kinds in the New Jersey, New York, and Philadelphia area. If that's your thing, don't forget to hit subscribe, don't forget to hit like, and leave a comment on anything that I talk about in today's episode. It would mean a lot to me. So let's get right into it. Episode number 32. We're almost getting to the episode of my age. If y'all want to guess how old I am, you can drop that in the comment section below. How old am I? And if we are on episode number 32, which number in the 30s am I? Okay, so I have a couple things to talk about with you guys today. The first thing I want to go over, and I'm probably going to make this in the thumbnail, like the title of the video, so I figured I would talk about this first for people who are specifically looking for this. I want to talk about going off of antidepressants, and I want to talk about the side effects, the pros and cons, and my experience with it. Just because I kind of want to share it with everybody. I find it interesting. And also, if anybody else out there is on antidepressants and are thinking about going off and they kind of want to know what they're getting themselves into, I thought it would be pretty cool to share that with you guys. So a quick little background about what I'm on. So I've been taking Zoloft for about 3 to 4 years, I want to say now. I feel like I don't know exactly when I started taking it, but I want to say 3 years ago. And also, long story short, because I really want to get to more like the side effects and exactly why you're here, but why I went on them, just like a little short story about that. I'm definitely an anxious person. I'm not so much a depressed person. I get a lot of anxiety. And a couple years ago, like 7 years ago, 8 years ago at this point, almost a decade ago, I'm a musician. I play piano. Those of you who know, but for those of you who don't know, little context clues. I had like a pretty severe wrist injury, and I couldn't play piano for like 2 years, I want to say. And this was like this wasn't in my head. This was like a very real injury that I had, and it was very painful and very difficult. But as a result, because I am like a naturally anxious person, I ended up kind of developing post-traumatic stress in relation to physical pain because, as a piano player, having a wrist injury is the worst possible. No injury is good, but I was just like, man, I wish this was my knee or, my back or something, or my neck. I just had wished it had been any type of other injury. The wrist injury was like the worst thing. And so, fast forward to what I was getting at, the reason I developed like PTSD in relationship to physical pain was because my mind then equated physical pain to like your dreams are crushed because essentially that's what happened. So it was kind of like a scary thing that happened to my brain. You know what I mean? It was like, oh my God, I had this severe injury that stopped me and halted my whole livelihood. Now, anytime I get a headache, anytime I get a backache, anytime I get any type of physical pain, my immediate like mental response is like my life is destroyed. And I like kind of lost the ability to tolerate physical pain. And it was just like a cocktail of a disaster. So, the doctor had recommended I go on Zoloft because at this point my wrist had recovered. Like I was actually completely recovered in my tendonitis from my wrists, but I had developed like chronic pain all over my body because my mind was so afraid of pain that I wasn't like, my mind wouldn't allow my body to heal from like regular aches and pains. And the doctor basically pointed that out to me. He was like, I was like going to the doctor for chronic physical pain, and he was just like, listen, I'm going to recommend antidepressants on you. He's like, at first I was like kind of, offended. I was just like, whoa, are you calling me fucking crazy? Like, you don't think my pain is real? And he was like, listen, he's like, I'm not saying that. He's like, I've seen this situation before. And he goes, what I think happened is your original pain was very real, and now your mind like is afraid of pain. And he was right. He was like, your mind is afraid of pain, and now you're mind, like your anxious mind, won't allow your body to heal. And he explains to me that, the mind and the body are extremely connected. And if something is going on in your head, it can often develop into like real physical realities. You know what I mean? So he was basically saying, no, I don't think you're crazy. It's just that you're so anxious about your injury that you're not healing. Your own mind isn't allowing your body to do the work of healing. He's like, so I'm going to prescribe you antidepressants, and I really think it's going to help. And he was 100% correct, because I had been in chronic pain at this point for like 3 years. Like 2 of those years was my wrist, and then a year after that was like back pain from scoliosis, which is very, like, again, I have scoliosis and the pain is very real, but because my mind was like so terrified of pain at this point, the pain was just like escalated in my mind to way bigger than it probably was. And I was like terrified of it, so he prescribed me with Zoloft, and keep in mind, I was in physical pain for 3 years, high levels of it too. Like it felt like an 8 out of 10 for me. Like it really did. Like in my mind, the pain I was in felt really strong. Within 2 months, my pain was gone. Not gone. I don't want to say it was gone, but I was able to like manage it, I guess you could say. Like in my head, it didn't feel like an 8 out of 10. It felt like a 2 or 3 out of 10. So I was like still in chronic pain, like for about another year after that, because I was having some like serious back issues, but the Zoloft had like allowed me to like calm down and allow my body to really heal. I think my mind would have like stopped my body from healing, and I think I would have been in like permanent chronic pain for like another 5 years had I not gone on the Zoloft. So the Zoloft really truly saved my life. But now here's the issue with it, is that once you go on it, it's very it's addicting, and I don't want to say addicting in like a junkie type of way, like, oh my God, I need my Zoloft. I mean, like your body now relies on it to feel good. You know what I mean? So, and I don't think that's good for the long term. It was really good for the temporary term, because I was just in this situation that I couldn't get out of on my own. I needed help to get out of it. And the Zoloft was like the perfect solution for that. But, at some point I wanted my body to then be able to regulate its own hormones, its own serotonin levels and dopamine levels and everything like that. I don't want to rely on a substance to do that for the rest of my life. So I did try to go off of Zoloft cold turkey about like a year and a half ago, I want to say, maybe 2 years ago. I'm not really good with like exact timelines. But yeah, something like that. And I tried to go off cold turkey, really big mistake. Not good, because again, your body is relying on this, pill to give you the hormones that regulate your feeling good, basically, like your dopamine and your serotonin levels. So if you just go off of it cold turkey like that, it's like a huge, intense drop of serotonin and dopamine in your body. And it's essentially like you're drug withdrawal symptoms, and really horribly, if you go off it that fast. So that was bad. I went back on the antidepressants after that, and I was like, all right, I'm not ready to go off of them. I'm going to wait. I'm just going to stay on them for a while. I was going through some like difficult things in my life. So I was like, let me just stay on them for now to like kind of help me get through some things I'm going through. And then when I'm feeling good and when I'm feeling ready and I'm in a good place in my life, I'm going to try again, and I'm going to do it the right way. So that's exactly where I'm at now. To be completely blunt with you guys, one of the main reasons I decided now was like a good time to try to go off. What motivated me was one of my friends had asked me to try mushrooms with her, and I was like scared to try it, but also really excited because I heard so many good things about it. Like some people had some really positive experiences on psychedelic mushrooms. So I was like pumped to try it. And I did it with 2 friends. I took the same exact dose as both of my friends. I saw exactly what they ate, and they gave me exactly what they ate. And within like 3 hours, like they kept asking me like, are you feeling it? Are you feeling it? And clearly they were feeling something, because they were just like, we were like just at their apartment, like listening to dance music or whatever. And like they were just like grooving to this music, and like their bodies were moving, and they were like, you feel it? Do you feel it? And I'm like questioning myself. I'm like, do I feel it? Like, and I'm looking around their apartment, and I'm like, their whole apartment is like decorated with laser lights. Like, is this the mushrooms, or is this just the way their apartment's decorated? Like I clearly wasn't feeling it, if I had to think about it that way. And as a matter of fact, I literally did I went home at 2:00 in the morning and like did my business taxes, like for the next business year. Like they're just the most non like psychedelic experience you could possibly have. Like I didn't feel it. I was super confused because I'm a lightweight in general. Like I get drunk easily. Like if I smoke weed, I get high easily. So I was like, why didn't I feel anything? That's so weird. And then I looked it up online later. I was like, reasons why you might not experience like a trip on mushrooms. And it turns out that people who are on antidepressants often have no effects from psychedelics, because antidepressants and psychedelics are essentially doing the same thing. Like they're playing around with your serotonin levels and your dopamine levels. So I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. So I was like, man, I really want to try mushrooms. Like, that might sound irresponsible to people. Like that's the reason why I'm going off antidepressants, but it made sense to me. I was like, I've been wanting to go off antidepressants. I'm in a good place in my life right now. This is kind of like an excuse to try to go off. So what I've been doing is I've been taking this weaning off of antidepressants very, very seriously. Like I'm not fucking around. Like I'm not going to just go cold turkey. What I did was, for 1 month, I took 3/4 of my pill, my dose. I just cut like a little slither of the end off, and I took about 3/4. Then for another month, I took half of my pill. Then for another month, which I'm at the tail end of right now, actually, I've been taking 1/4 of my pill for about a month. And that's only going to go on for like about another week. And then when November hits, like the next month, I'm going to take 1/4 of my pill every like 3 or 4 days. And then I'm just going to stop. Like we're talking like a 4-month weaning off process. So I'm actually not 100% off of them yet, but I feel like I did start noticing the side effects, because at this point I'm only taking 1/4 of a pill. And this is so irresponsible of me, but I don't even know exactly what milligrams I'm prescribed with, but all I know is that it's a low dose, like compared to other people. So, I don't know, I want to guess maybe an average, correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say like an average dose is like 50 milligrams in one pill. I'm pretty sure if okay, let's just put it this way. If 50 milligrams is the average pill, my doctor prescribed me like 25 or 20. Like I know that he had prescribed me like one of the lower doses, So at this point, I'm like, taking 2 to 5 milligrams? Like it's barely anything at this point. So I have been noticing the side effects. I have been feeling differently, and I do want to kind of report that to you guys, what's been going on. So for the first 2 months that I did, when I did the 3/4 pill and when I did the half pill, I had no side effects at all. I felt great, didn't notice it at all. Once I switched to the 1/4 pill, which is what I'm on now, and I'm almost finished with it, did notice a lot of side effects. So I had read about this before, and I had never personally experienced it myself, even when I went off cold turkey, which is really weird. But I had read somewhere that there's something called brain zaps. Sounds terrifying, and it kind of is. Like the good news is I didn't experience them for very long. Like it only happened about 1 or 2 days. But they're unless you live through it, there's really no way to explain it. But I feel like if I could try to explain it, brain zap is like the perfect explanation for it. It like that's why they call it that. It literally feels like something in your head just like shakes, and that's like, I don't have any other words to explain it. You have to feel it. It just like feels like something in your head randomly feels electrocuted. It's not pleasant. It's not pleasant, but it's not pleasant, but it's also not that bad either. Like, it's just kind of alarming. Like, whoa, what the fuck was that? And it doesn't like last all day or anything. It would just like randomly happen throughout the day. And it only went on for about 2 days for me, which is, I think, pretty good, because I've heard that some people experience the brain zaps for like 2 to 3 weeks and sometimes even a month. So in my case, I had like a gentle, getting off like with those brain zaps, but it was a little weird. I'm not gonna lie, it was very weird, a little concerning, but it did stop. The other side effects I've noticed is, one, I'm a lot more sensitive, like I think in a good way, because I think in the past I had been an overly sensitive person to the point where I couldn't regulate my own emotions. And being on the antidepressants, I've been in therapy while I've been on antidepressants. So I feel like the antidepressants kind of like numbed or toned down my emotions so that I could, it's not that you don't feel them, by the way. You do feel your emotions. It's just that you feel them and you don't really care. Like, you're like, oh, there's the emotions. And it was kind of like the same thing, like I said, with the physical pain. It was like, yeah, I'm in physical pain, but I can tolerate it now. I don't care, type of thing. So, which it is kind of scary, and it's kind of like, would you really want to do something like that? But truthfully, because I was in such like a mess of a situation, it was the perfect thing for me to be in, because now I could like still feel pain or still feel my emotions, but numb them down to the point where I was like, okay, let's work on them. I was able to then work on them, so now that I'm coming off the medication, I'm starting to just become more sensitive again, which I like, because I in some ways I miss that part of me, like I cry easily now, like not like from getting my feelings hurt, but sometimes like a good cry too. Like I don't know, I performed at a wedding the other day, and I was like playing the music at a music gig. I was playing the music as like the bride walked down the aisle, and I felt like overwhelmed with like emotion. And hey, stop. No, sorry about that. Neo was biting a wire, and I don't want him to get electrocuted. He does that all the time. But anyways, I felt like overwhelmed with emotion as the bride was walking down the aisle, and I started crying. You know what I mean? I was still able to perform, but I just felt like so sensitive to the moment. And you know what? I'm glad. I like that. I think that's like a really, I think that's a good thing. I think that's a healthy thing. And I like now that I'm able to experience my emotions, after years of like figuring them out when they were numbed down. Now I'm like, okay, now I'm going to be me. I'm going to fully and wholly embrace my emotional side. And I'm going to work on it and try to deal with it in a more mature way now, like if I, sometimes those good emotions pop up where you cry tears of joy, but, when I get angry, or if I get insecure or lonely or sad about things, like I want to feel those feelings and learn how to manage them responsibly now, without the medication. And I'm happy and I'm grateful to have the experience to do that. Now, keep in mind that if I notice that I spiral out of control and I can't get a grip over my emotions, like I allow my emotions to bring me down, I will go back on the medication. I just want everybody to know that. But I don't feel like that's the case at all. I feel like I'm actually doing very well. And I'm enjoying like the full spectrum of being a human and having emotions, some other side effects. I've noticed that I've been having like, when I was younger, before I took medication, I used to have like really vivid dreams, a lot, and I have noticed like over the past few years that those have calmed down a lot. And I've noticed like since I've been going off the medication, those vivid dreams have been coming back. So I do think there is some truth to that. I do think that antidepressants could be like numbing or dulling down your spirituality. And again, it's not that it doesn't completely get rid of your spirituality. It's just that it kind of, I just feel like that the antidepressants like numb you or dull you. So it's not like you're completely changed. It's just that everything that you experience is now toned down. Like I said, like instead of an 8 out of 10, it's like a 2 out of 10. But it's still there. It's just like numb, you know? So it's not like I didn't have dreams over the past couple of years, but they weren't like as wild and crazy. And now, you know, now that I'm going off the medication, I've noticed like dreams coming back again, like intense, sometimes nightmares, sometimes everyone's probably like, bitch, go back on your fucking medication. This doesn't sound good. But no, like not always nightmares. Like sometimes, I don't know, like, sometimes you have dreams about like people from your past. And, I have missed that part of me. Cause I used to be very like, spiritual, I guess you could say. And I felt like I had some type of strong connection with my spirituality and you know, I don't know, and I do feel like dreams are very much connected and tied to that. So it does feel good to have these like vivid dreams again, and to be able to wake up and remember them, and to be able to like analyze them and try to understand what they mean and try to figure out what those are. So that's been like a side effect I've been noticing, is like dreams are coming back. Another side effect, which is, I have to make a comment about this, is that, by the way, like if any of my family's listening, fast forward to this. You're not going to want to hear this part. Trust me. Libido. Okay. So they say that antidepressants also numb your libido. Like they numb your sex drive. I feel like that's probably a concerning thing for men, especially because they're probably like worried they won't be able to get an erection, you know, when having sex, and understandable, like totally get that. So I feel like that's like one of the reasons why men avoid antidepressants. But from the female perspective, it's entirely true. What I find interesting is that when I was on the medication, I didn't notice my libido like numbing at all. Like I felt still just as like sexual and whatever. Like in my head, I was like, oh, I don't have any side effects. I feel like totally like sexually normal. Like I still have a sex drive. I didn't think anything was wrong, but I've been noticing going off of the antidepressants that all of a sudden my sex drive is like wildly like, like I almost have like a childlike fascination with sex again. Like I'm like I feel like I'm like a 13-year-old or like a 12-year-old going through puberty, and I'm like curious about sex. And like if I'm hanging out with my guy friends, like I had a couple of my guy friends over here the other day, and like in the music scene or whatever, and we were just like talking about sex for 5 hours straight. We were talking about like chodes and whatnot, like all kinds of crazy stuff. And like almost like, you know, like almost like those conversations you had when you were like in middle school. And I really feel like going off the antidepressants is making me like sexually curious. Like it's very strange. But like I said, I didn't even notice a numbing of my libido at all. Like I didn't notice that whatsoever, but I do notice a huge increase going off the antidepressants. And again, I think it's one of those things that it's like, I still had a sex drive, but I just didn't realize it was dumbed down. I didn't realize that it was numbed down on my antidepressants. I had no clue. Quite frankly, I think I should be on antidepressants just to numb it, because it's pretty annoying to like think about sex all the time now. It's really distracting. It was kind of nice to like not think about it as much. But it's also fun. It feels good to be like, you know, feeling alive and vibrant again, you know? Another interesting side effect, I've noticed that I didn't gain weight on antidepressants. I actually lost weight on them. But it wasn't just the pill itself. It was like an attitude change. I think the burst of dopamine, I think it made me more active. Like when I first went on the antidepressants, I think I was like 130 pounds when I was like 138 pounds before I took the antidepressants. And then I started taking the antidepressants, and I drop down to 120 pounds within 2 months. And even I went to the doctor and they noticed it. Like they weighed me. They're like, you dropped 20 pounds. No, not 20 pounds, like 15, right? Because if I was, about like 15 to 18 pounds, somewhere around there. They're like, you dropped like 15 to 18 pounds in 2 months. Like, was that just from the pill? Like that was just from the antidepressant? And like you could tell the lady, like she was a little overweight. So you can tell like, she was like, should I take these antidepressants? Like you could tell that's what she was thinking. And I explained to her like, yeah, I did lose weight, but I worked for it. It was like, so it wasn't like, oh, I just took the pill and lost a bunch of weight. It was like, I took the pill, felt really happy, and then started like becoming really active again. So that's what led to me losing weight, you know? So I didn't gain weight on, antidepressants at all, but I will say this, I was at risk for gaining weight on it, because I did notice that my metabolism slowed down. And after, not immediately, but like a couple years into taking the antidepressants, my metabolism slowed down a lot. But the reason I didn't gain weight is because I'm a health nut, and I just like, I count all my calories, and I started taking mental note of like how many calories I need to eat to maintain my weight. So I just did that and I didn't gain weight. But like, had I not done that, like had I been somebody who wasn't tracking my calories and I just kind of ate whatever I wanted, like naturally without thinking about it, I would have definitely gained weight. Like, because when I was younger, like before the antidepressants, I had a wildly fast metabolism to the point where like, I'm not even kidding you. Like this actually kind of pisses some of my friends off. Like they've told me about it. They're like, I'm so fucking jealous of your metabolism. When I was like 25, I used to eat close to 4,000 calories every single day, and I weighed 110 pounds. It's wild. I don't know why I'm like that. Sometimes I think there's like something wrong. Like I have an overactive metabolism, and quite frankly, it's actually annoying. Like some people, like I remember some of my girlfriends at that time were like pissed, like what the fuck? Like you can eat so much food and you don't gain any weight. I hate your guts. And I try to explain to them like, no, it's actually really annoying to, like I would have to like constantly pack food everywhere I went and that type of thing. Like I always had to like make sure I had food on me for when I get hungry, because it was like, it's like a blessing and a curse. It's like, yeah, it's nice to be able to eat a lot of food and then not put on weight, but at the same time, it's really annoying. It's like a baby. It's like a newborn. Like they have to eat constantly in order to not cry. Like, you know. So it's like a blessing and a curse. It's nice, but it's really annoying. But anyways, what I'm getting at here is like, when I was younger, I used to consume like 4,000 calories a day and was like rail thin. I noticed like about a year and a half ago ish that I couldn't do that anymore. I started putting on weight when I was eating that many calories, and I had to like tone down how many calories I consumed. And my new normal was about 2,000 calories a day. Like that's how I can maintain my weight. Like, okay, eat 2,000 calories a day. That's how you maintain your weight, which is like a normal body. Like that's what I should have been when I was younger. But since I've been going off the antidepressants, I've noticed I've been wildly hungry, like constantly. And like, for those of you who watch my Instagram, like, you'll notice I've been like posting these huge meals all of a sudden because my body is demanding it, you know? And I've been weighing myself to make sure like, okay, is this hunger just like a symptom of going off the antidepressants, or do I actually need this food? No, it turns out I actually need this food, because I weigh exactly the same after increasing my calories. So I had no fucking clue that the antidepressants were slowing down my metabolism. I thought it was just aging, because, you know, I'm, I guess I'm going to give away the answer that I was asking you guys in the beginning. I'm 33 now. So I kind of thought like, okay, when I was 25, I could eat 4,000 calories, and I'm 33 and now I can only eat 2,000. That's just normal aging, right? No, it turns out it was the antidepressants. And I'm sure some of that is normal aging. Like I'm sure that I probably can't eat 4,000 calories anymore, but I could probably eat 3,000, you know? And I had no clue. I had absolutely no clue that my metabolism slowing down was related to the antidepressants, because now I'm going off of them. And like I said, I went from eating like 2,000 calories a day to like about 3,000 calories a day, and I'm not putting on any weight. So yeah, I had no clue, and I think that's really wild, and I think that's important to know. And keep in mind, like, if you do want to go on antidepressants, you can stop yourself from gaining weight if you just listen to your body's new metabolism. So for example, like if I keep track of my calories and I notice like, okay, now I'm getting really full and starting to gain weight when I eat more than 2,000 calories, like, okay, listen to your body and do that. You won't gain weight if you just listen to yourself. But if you're the type of person who can't really do that and you just kind of like go loose, then yeah, maybe antidepressants could lead to weight gain for you, you know? But anyways, that's kind of like all I wanted to say about antidepressants and going off of them. I just thought it would be really helpful for anybody else who is going through the same thing. Anybody else out there who's thinking about going off of their antidepressants, you know, that type of thing. Okay, on to the next segment of this podcast episode. I had to take a little break because I was talking so loud and my throat started hurting. And I just did a gig the other day where I had to sing for like basically 3 hours straight. So my voice is a little bit tired right now. But anyways, take a little water break. On to the next segment. Improvement at comedy. Okay, so a couple weeks ago, I want to say, like maybe a month ago at this point, I was invited to perform a show at a bar in New Jersey. And I've only been doing comedy for about a year at this point, and you have to, my cats are being so mischievous right now. He's like trying to knock over my drink over here. Both of my cats are here. That's a rarity. But anyways, so I had got invited to do a gig at a bar in New Jersey, and I was really excited about it. I went in really prepared, and I was, meaning like I had prepared my jokes, and I was like really looking forward to doing the show, and I felt very confident in my jokes. But what I was totally unprepared for was doing comedy in this type of setting, which was outside of my skills and my abilities. So basically, when you do comedy, I actually talked about this on a previous podcast with Andre Mitchell. So if you have seen the Andre Mitchell episode, I don't know exactly what number it is, but if you've seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I was asking him for advice on a show I had bombed, basically, where I was in a bar. And when it comes to bar shows, it's not like a typical comedy club. It's very like, one of my friends describes it as assault comedy, meaning like those people aren't actually there to see comedy. They're actually there just to drink and watch TV at the bar, and you're intruding on their time actually. And it's your job to kind of get their attention. Like you have to kind of win them over, and it's a little rough. It's a little rowdy. They're probably going to heckle you. So going in with a script, like going in with like jokes lined up, set and ready to go isn't good enough. You have to have a whole nother set of skills to deal with this scenario in which I'm, like I said, I'm so new at comedy. So I wasn't prepared for this setting, and I had no idea what to do. Long story short, I went to go perform my set, and my energy just wasn't aggressive enough for this type of environment. I kind of was like very soft spoken and speaking at like a more neutral tone, and totally lost the attention of, oh my God, my cats are really, stop, get out of here. Neo, I hate to be mean to Neo, but I just don't want him to electrocute himself. Going back to that, my energy didn't capture their attention, and they just started like talking to each other, like at the bar. Like they were just like, everybody was talking to each other or like watching TV. Nobody was listening to me. And again, I had started off like confidently, like, yeah, I wrote these jokes. I'm excited about them. These jokes have been working at open mics all week. I'm ready to go. I'm excited. I'm doing a show. And then this was the first time and only time I've ever done this, but I was supposed to do 10 minutes of material, and I walked off within like 5 to 6 minutes. I was humiliated, honestly felt like crying. I was just in total shock and was humiliated. And it was a rough experience. It was a learning experience. So one of my friends who was there, shout out to Tim Rager if you're listening to this episode, he was there and he saw me perform, and I think he felt bad for me because he referred me to another bar show in the area a few weeks later. And I'm thinking to myself, like, why the fuck would he refer me to somebody after watching me like bomb so miserably like that? Like, he should know better. But I feel very lucky and very fortunate. And I was very thankful, and I was like, thank you so much, dude. Like, that really means a lot to me. And what he explained to me was like, he wanted to see me have a chance to like redeem myself, which I'm so grateful for, which means he believes in me. He believes that I am more than that experience, you know? And I felt very grateful for that I had a chance to like try again in that scenario. And I think he was also able to recognize what was going on. Like, I think, you know, he's been doing it a little longer than me. I want to say like 3 years. I don't know if I'm fucking it up, but I think he's been doing this for like 3 years at this point or something like that. So I think because he's still somewhat young in comedy, like he's more advanced than me, but still somewhat young. I think he was able to recognize like, oh, this bitch is shocked by doing comedy in a bar scene. Let me like help her throw her into it kind of thing, you know, and do it again. So I felt very lucky. And so this time around I was doing the bar thing again, and I went in like prepared, like mentally prepared, like, okay, the jokes on my list are not like, they're probably not going to work. I'm probably going to have to do more crowd work, and I'm going to probably have to be more aggressive, and I'm probably going to have to deal with hecklers. And now mentally I know that, and I'm prepared to deal with that, you know? And I went in, and to make if my friend's listening to this, I don't mean anything offensive. I don't mean to offend you, but to make matters worse, my friend SJ came to come, which I was very happy to see her. Like I said, I don't want to offend her if she's listening to this, but I was like terrified now of bombing in front of a friend. I was like, oh great. I was like, I bombed the last bar show. Now a friend is here, so I have to like really, you know, do a good job, or else I'm going to be wanting to kill myself after this. But like I said, I took in everything that Andre Mitchell told me on the last podcast. I took mental note of that, and I just like went in there more mentally prepared to deal with this type of situation. And I did well. I did surprisingly well, and I'm really proud. Like I'm really extremely proud that how I handled it. I got a lot of positive feedback. I got a lot of hecklers, by the way. Like, there was a lot of like I'm not going to say what town it's in, because I don't want to like hurt the people who live in this town if someone's from New Jersey, but let's just say it's a very a town that has not progressed in the past like 100 years basically. So there was just like a lot of people, old-fashioned people, that couldn't relate to my material, because a lot of the material was about like, I had some jokes about Instagram on there. Like there was nothing relatable to this crowd. And there were some like men in the crowd who were kind of like yelling out, heckling totally sexist things. Like some guy was like, show me your tits, sweetheart. Like that, like that type of stuff. You know what I mean? Or like I got a mushroom tip waiting for you. Like, you know, that type of stuff. Like that was the type of heckles I was getting. But I actually had like a comeback for each and every person that was heckling me. And one thing I could say is that I went in with like a different mindset. Like I didn't go in with the mindset of like, okay, these are my jokes and I have to stick to my script. I went in with like a more aggressive mindset, I guess you could say, like where I was like, I have to be stronger. And immediately I spoke louder, like I was speaking louder. My tone of voice was more like strong, I guess you could say. And long story short, I realized it was a different way to command the energy of the audience. It's completely different in a comedy club. Like when you're in a comedy club performing, you know what I mean? It's like those people are there to see your comedy. Like they are there to watch you as a comedian, and they respect you and they want to hear what you have to say. So they're going to be quiet. They're not going to be talking to each other. I mean, sometimes they will be talking to each other if they're rude people, but overall it's like a totally different type of setting. Doing comedy in a bar is like it's kind of like a humiliating setting, but the ironic thing about it is that I really think it's such an important stepping stone to learn so much as a new comic. Like, yes, it's humiliating, it's miserable, it's like but it's kind of like, I guess the way I could see it is it's kind of like I don't know what they call, like what is this? When you go to college and you try to get into like a fraternity or a sorority, they like make you do all this crazy shit to get in. Like, what do they call that again? Somebody let me know in the comment section below about that one. I can't remember what you call that, but whatever that is, that's kind of, to me, how I'm perceiving this in comedy. It's like, yeah, this is humiliating, but I do feel like there is a lot of value in being able to understand that different rooms and different scenarios call for a different type of energy. Because in a bar show, it's like a totally different type of energy than a comedy club. But the truth is, like, if you can finagle your way through that scenario and actually get people to listen to you, imagine what you could do in an actual comedy club. You know what I mean? And I think that's what's valuable about it. I think it's kind of like really thickening your skin and really forcing you to do more crowd work, because like these people don't give a shit about your cute little intellectual jokes. They want to be fucked with. Like, they want to be roughed around with. They're drunks. Like these are dive bars. Like, these are drunk alcoholics, and you're bothering them. So you have to like win them over. So it's crazy. It's like humiliating. But like I said, there is such a skill. Like there is such a value to going through this, like putting yourself through this in order to become a better comedian. I also want to add on like to something I talked about. I think it was last episode. In the Q&A section, somebody had asked me, how is the process of music and comedy? Are they related to each other? Is it hard to adjust becoming a comedian after being a musician, like the process, blah, blah, blah. And I want to kind of add on to that, because I had mentioned then that at first I was very overwhelmed by doing both comedy and music. I thought I was making like a big mistake. I thought that that maybe perhaps I was letting go of something that I had worked on as a musician and abandoning it to throw myself into comedy, and maybe that's a mistake and maybe it's stupid. But the more I've been like getting into it, like I said, the more confident I get in both, the more they help each other out. And one thing I've been realizing that is like a parallel, I talked about parallels in the previous episode, but I want to add one major parallel I've been noticing as a musician and as a comedian is, in both scenarios, you're like a master of managing energy in a room, you know? So for example, like when I did that wedding gig, where I was playing piano as the bride and groom walked down the aisle, or just the bride, I guess, because the groom's waiting. I'm not good at that. But like as the bride was walking down the aisle, my job in that room was to create the energy. Like my job was to essentially like make the people cry, and I did. Like I played the song. I felt very emotional, and I threw that energy into my piano playing. And my job was to set the mood and get the energy of the people to like comply. Like, I hate to say comply, but like not comply, but like my job was to project my energy onto the audience and for them to feel it with me and for us to feel this together. And it's fucking crazy how true that is in comedy. It's like, it's a different type of energy. Like, you don't want to make the audience cry necessarily, but it's your job to get them on board with your energy and like to transfer your energy to them and to like share that energy as a collective unit. And you're like the ringleader of the energy. It's fucking crazy. It's wild. And it's like I said, when I first started pursuing both of these, I was so overwhelmed and terrified of that. But now that I'm getting into it, it's like the more I master energy as a musician, the energy of the room as a musician, the more I master my energy of the room as a comedian, and the two help each other. And it's so funny too, like as a comedian, like your drug is laughter. Like you want those people to laugh. Like you will do whatever you can to figure out how to get those people to laugh. And as a did I say comedian? I hope I didn't fuck it up. What I meant for that was comedian. I don't know if I said it or not, but as a comedian, your job is to get people to laugh, and that's like your drug. As a musician, your drug is to get people to clap. So it's like you, as a comedian and as a musician, you feel like a sense of emptiness. When you're a comedian, you feel empty when they don't laugh. And when you're a musician, you feel empty when they don't clap. and you will do whatever it takes to get the clap. Wow, I just threw myself into a setup line. So if anyone wants to comment on that below, the joke's all yours. But as a musician, you're desperate to get clapping from the audience, and as a comedian, you're desperate to get laughter from the audience. And it's the same thing. It's like the same drug, and the two are so related. And to add on to this, everything was kind of like synchronizing this week mentally with that. Jazzy's sitting on the notebook. I don't want to disturb him, but Jazzy, I need my notebook. Sorry, Jazzy. I had to look up the name of this because it's a Russian name and I didn't know how to pronounce it. Valentina Shevchenko. Valentina Shevchenko. I saw a Joe Rogan episode this week, and the woman he was interviewing was this woman, Valentina Shevchenko. And she is a world-class champion fighter, female fighter, obviously. I believe she's Russian. Her name sounds very Russian, but she could also be like Ukrainian too. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure she's Russian. It's so funny to me when like certain things are going on in my head and I see like everything aligning in such a way that it all starts to make sense. So he was interviewing her and he was asking her questions about her career and her mentality and that type of thing. And by the way, amazing episode. If anyone's like a Joe Rogan fan, listen to this episode. Even if you're not into fighting, her information is so valuable, and I've learned so much just from listening to her. And I don't even watch fighting, but I still loved hearing her philosophies and everything she had to say. But one thing she said that really like struck a chord with me in a good way. I mean, so she's like she's a very ambitious person in that she pursues like multiple different things. Like she's a linguist. She knows like 6 different languages or something. I could be getting the number wrong, but she knows several different languages. She likes to travel. She likes to dance. Apparently she's like a dancer too. And she had mentioned on the podcast episode that some people have this mentality that you're born to do one thing and stick with it, and that's your thing. And she said that she doesn't believe in that at all. She says that you don't have to just be one thing and just be that thing. And she actually believes that it's like very flawed to do that. Like she's like, that's a very flawed mentality because you actually get worse at the thing you're trying to do when you only do that thing. She believes that you can be a master of multiple things. She thinks it's bullshit that like you just have to be one thing and that's your thing. And if you want to be the best at that thing, you have to do this thing. And she's living, breathing proof of it because she is a world-class champion fighter. She's one of the best out there. And she doesn't believe in just like training, fighting all the time. She's like, no, I want to learn so many different things. I want to learn different languages. Like, and she even mentioned like, as a fighter, she doesn't only want to just fight. Like she doesn't want to just train to be the strongest and the fastest and have the most technique. She believes that part of developing that technique is being a well-rounded individual in general and like also embracing the culture of the fighting. So for example, she like travels to Thailand and eats the food and gets to know the people and like fully embodies the culture of fighting through their country, through traveling to the country of the origin of the style of fighting and everything like that. So like that, just hearing that from her was so confirming to me that like, okay, I'm not making a mistake. I'm not making a mistake by pursuing 2 things. I've had people stop me and tell me like, you really should just do musical comedy. Like, what are you doing? You can't just keep doing these 2 different things. You're going to fail if you do that. And so like to the point where I'm just like, God, should I be writing musical comedy? Maybe they're right. Because it's too much, but I don't like musical. Like I like musical comedy, but not the way that I love stand up. Like I love stand up and I love piano and I don't, I guess what I'm saying is like, I don't have to be one thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like I could be different things. And, hearing Valentina Shevchenko say that on the Joe Rogan podcast was so confirming and like soothing to me. I'm like, okay, like here is a world-class fighter who is one of the best fighters out there who actively pursues and masters different things like languages and dancing. Like apparently she's like a really good dancer and that type of thing. So I'm like, okay, that's really good to know that she believes that. It gives me faith in continuing down the path I am, and I'm feeling so much more comfortable about it. Okay, I don't have much more to talk about. I actually only have one question today from the question and answer section. I got like 15 last week, so I was a little sad that I only got one this week, but whatever. I posted it on a Sunday. That might have something to do with it. Like maybe Sundays people aren't really checking the Instagram story. So by the way, if you have a question for me and you want me to answer it in the next podcast episode, drop it in the comment section or whatever, and I'll save it and put it aside for the next episode if you want to do that. But so on to the Q&A with the one question. This question is from Eddie the Hand. That's his handle. Eddie the Hand asks me, going forward, what is the most important thing for you to accomplish as a performer? That's a great question because it kind of goes like hand in hand with this whole conversation we've been having. So I would say my goals for comedy and music performing would be very different. I would say as a comedian right now, my goals would be to, because I'm new at it, my goals are a lot different with comedy than music. My goals as a comedian, as a performing comedian right now would be to be able to go with the flow a little better. In these different situations. Like I was saying, the difference between the difference between bar shows and regular comedy club shows. I want to be able to read the room a little better. I want to be able to like step into every single situation and be like, okay, this calls for crowd work. This calls for more like joke type of things. This calls for one-liners. This calls for stories. And becoming more confident on like going off the planned path, like becoming more confident with living in the spur of the moment and not having to stick to like a script sort of thing. I would say as a musician, it's a completely different goal right now for performances. I would say as a musician right now, my performance goal would be skill, 100% skill. I feel like the skills that I show at a live music show and then what I can perform in my own house, like when I'm practicing by myself, I feel like sometimes when I'm on stage as a musician, just like the excitement of, well, first of all, just the change of scene, like not being in my room practicing versus like being on stage in front of a bunch of other people. I feel like sometimes I fucking nail it when I'm practicing. Like I'll do a practice session at home and I'll be like, fucking nailed it. Like my technique feels great. My skill is really good. And then when you're on stage, like you fuck up sometimes, like you choke up. Like I think because again, it's like there's only so many times. Like you can practice at home every single day, but every single time you're practicing at home, when you're on stage, it's like a totally different environment. It's out of your comfort zone. And then sometimes I do make mistakes when I'm playing because it's just like such a different environment. So I guess to make a long story short, my goals as a musician performer would be to display my confidence in my actual technical abilities in a live performance setting, to not choke up because of like the change of scene or whatever, you know what I mean? I think a lot of that is getting used to like the sound, because the thing is when you perform live, I'm learning it's very complicated to deal with the sound. Like sometimes there could be sound issues. If the speakers are facing the audience, you often can't hear yourself. So like that's a whole nother thing I need to figure out. Like, okay, I need to start bringing my own monitors to like face me separately of the speaker that's facing the audience. And me and my band and I, we've been talking about, like, one of the members of the band was talking about, he's like the best at the sound in the band. Like he's the most skilled or knowledgeable of setting up the sound. He was talking about like us getting in-ear monitors so we can actually hear ourselves playing and singing, type of thing. So yeah, I think like if I had to sum it up, my goals as a music performer would be to be more comfortable just like dealing with that. Like, okay, how could I be just as good on stage as I am at home with all these weird things, like with all these like potential sound issues and like just like the change of scenery. Like, I want to still be able to like fucking shred on stage, like, and not kind of choke up and make mistakes because I'm like freaked out that I can't hear myself, or freaked out that it's just a different environment type of thing. So, ironically, it's like weird. I've been doing music for a lot longer than I've been doing comedy, but in a way it's kind of like, I guess, developing confidence on stage, because I'm confident in my ability as a performer, but I'm still not 100% confident with like, how does this sound in this environment versus at home? Like I feel like at home, I can hear it perfectly clear, so it sounds good to me. But when I'm there, I'm just like, can they hear it? Blah, blah, blah. Like it's just like a totally different thing. And I think that's just going to come with like, more practice. Like I think the more shows I do, the more normal it will be to perform in this environment where like the sound is weird and different and stuff like that. Sort of thing. I think it's just like more practice, more exposure is going to really make a big difference, and like learning as I go, you know? But anyways, that's all I have for you guys today. That was my only question for today, unfortunately. So hopefully next time I get a little more questions, but it's okay because I had a lot to talk about before the questions. Anyways, again, this is the Pranzata podcast, episode number 32. If you're into this kind of thing and you enjoyed yourself, don't forget to hit subscribe, don't forget to hit like, and don't forget to comment on anything that I talked about throughout the podcast. And that is all I have for you guys today. Bye.